evening, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning and Planning Board meeting. Would everyone please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, public notice to this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given in the following manner: posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office and emailed to the Retrospect and the Courier Post. Joyce, can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Clenow.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Ms. Bushin. Here. Mr. Wojciechowski.
Here.
Mr. Offerly.
Here.
Mr. Vanella.
Here.
Chief Laverty.
Here.
Mayor Paz.
Here.
Mr. Ranieri.
Here.
Mr. Stone.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Mr. Rowan.
Here.
Mr. Pettit is,
He is excused.
and Mr. Knight.
Here.
Thank you. There is a need for a motion to approve the minutes of the November meeting. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes? Is there a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the November meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Ranieri,
Second.
second by Ms. Scutchen. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, under old business, we have a representative from Steve Bach's office would like to give us, I guess, a handout and perhaps do a little revised review.
Yes, thank you. Candace Canaflu from Bach Associates. We couldn't make it tonight, but we just wanted to hand out the final draft master plan reexamination. We had talked about last month during the public hearing this week, but we discussed with Candy, we thought it would be better to move it into 2018 with a new board and not rush it through with the holidays where maybe not a lot of public would show up. So we have the final draft to pass out for everyone to look through, and there's some
Name
extras.
for down there.
Yeah. And there's also some extras for any new board members or anything. And I apologize for freezing cold because I didn't sit in the car for a few hours.
No.
So those should go, and we'll talk, but for the public notice and everything. These are the preliminary need, determination of need, investigation report for the redevelopment area. So this too, we have a few extras.
Need an extra figure.
And these are for everyone's review, and we'll discuss at the next meeting. So you're welcome.
Can we ask, does everything look okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we believe so. We're pretty confident in our determination report, and you can look through everything. And the bulk of you'll see in the back, Appendix C is a big matrix, and that puts it's a big table with every single block and lot, the address, the property owner, the redevelopment criteria. So that should make it easier to kind of go through piece by piece, and then you can see on the map, which is kind of small, but the block and lot parcels are identified on the map, so you can kind of figure out each parcel and where we were going with the evaluation of each one. If you have any questions before the next meeting, feel free to.
Yep. Candace, there's one photo per parcel, is that correct?
The photos, there's not, mostly they are of they're just exemplary of the different areas and different parcels. There's not necessarily one per
There's not one of every parcel?
parcel, no. So if there's something that you feel is missing but should be in there, then absolutely we can add it. Again, we just tried to give a good snapshot of the area and identify the parcels which were critical to be photographed, and also some of the parcels are identified by block and lot, some of which fairly obvious, which what
And did
property.
we say we had a total of 320 parcels?
330,
330,
yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, that's
I
fine,
always
don't worry
forget
about
that
it.
number, but it was a lot, more than 300. So,
Okay.
and again, some of them are owned by the same owners and stuff, so some of them are considered for tax purposes one parcel, even though it might say blocks 1.01 through 1.06 or something like that.
All right, so just for our edification, because obviously, I don't think anyone's gonna have a whole lot of time between, correct, a whole lot of time between now and the first of the year to go through all this. We had discussed that we thought that the master plan reexamination would probably be the first piece of material to go through
Correct, in January.
in January. And then after we go through that and we have our reorganization meeting, which is in January, then we can distribute all of the information on the redevelopment to any new members, for them to have ratification to go through for a month or two, whatever it takes to digest it.
Right.
We're not in any huge rush with that.
Right, yes, and if it would be helpful to discuss the redevelopment examination, the redevelopment study, just on a basis for discussion purposes.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, I think, in my opinion, after we do our reorganization in January, I think perhaps we'll do the master plan reexamination. We'll hand out the handouts for anyone to look over. And then perhaps in February, what we'll do is we will just have an informal discussion for anyone who has any questions about it before we have a public hearing. I think it's only fair to any new appointees that comes in. I want them to have time to discuss it with everyone here and to ask you any questions and be pertinent to, what their vote may be.
Absolutely, sure, so yes, and you would like the re-examination public hearing to be in January at the reorg, or?
I think probably February. I think we're probably okay with February because, again, if we have a new appointee, which we may, but they're not going to have this in their hand, that's really not fair to ask them to make any type of an educated decision upon information they haven't been provided with.
That sounds reasonable, and again, we will help with any public notice or anything like that needs to happen.
Cool.
And we'll plan on seeing you in February.
That sounds great.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
so
your
much.
time.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays,
Candace. Happy
everybody.
holidays now.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay, I guess the next order of business would be application 16-05, which would be represented by Mike Bobbano.
We're going to step down, correct?
Yes, thank you.
One thing I would like to say, I'm always proud that everyone shows up to all these meetings. It's nice that we always have a very good attendance from our board members. We have a lot of meetings, there's not a lot of people.
Thank you, nobody.
Yeah, no one will be here next time?
We'll go back out.
We can.
Yeah.
I jinxed it.
Oh, you have a conflict?
Yeah, Mr.
Oh,
Ockerly
that's right, yeah.
will recuse himself because he's being represented by Mr. Albano. So in order to fill his seat, we'll seat our first alternate, Mr. Stone.
That's fine, yep.
Okay? Yes,
So
sir.
You'll be voting on it.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Michael Albano. I have an office in Runnemede, New Jersey. I'm here tonight on behalf of Sonny Carafolo. We've been here a couple times. I appreciate that you have the full board here tonight for the vote. We're here asking the board to grant a use variance to my client for a property on Clemens Ridge Road, which is zoned, right now it's zoned for general office. We'd like to zone it for commercial, a variety store, a thrift store, retail sales store, something like that. With that said, I'd like Mr. Rowan, if you could swear in Mr. Calafolo.
Carol, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board tonight is truthful and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Just a quick overview. This is a existing site. I guess everybody knows where it is, right there on Clemens Ridge Road in Oak. It's partially commercial or general office in the front, and there's some residential in the rear. We gave you a plan to look at. It's a fully developed site. There's really no room for anything else on the site. The one thing that Mr. Garofalo has requested that he would put, if you granted a commercial use there for a variety store, thrift store, he would put 10 parking spots on the site. Right now, the parking spots, if you go into that site, you back out. If you go in front forward, you back out on the Clement Ridge Road. What Mr. Garofalo would do is put 6 spots in the front of the property, but they would be on a slant. They would be on a curve. You know, instead of going straight in, you would go in diagonally and pull out. That would prevent the cars from going into Clement Ridge Road when they pull out. And then on the Oak Avenue side, you put 4 more spots, which would be a total of 10 spots, and again, they would be on a slant. And Oak is not as busy, obviously, as Clement Ridge Road, but again, Second Avenue, I keep saying Oak, Second Avenue. So it would be, you know, slanted, the cockeyed, I would call them, would be beneficial. I talked to John Pettit last time I was here, and he didn't have a problem with the design. They would be 18 by 10 parking spaces. But besides that, there'd be very little change to the building. There's lighting on the building. There would be 10 parking spaces for the store if it's granted. One thing you might, if you've ever been up to Mount Ephraim on the Black Horse Pike, there's a variety store called Kenny's World on the right-hand side. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's kind of like that type of store. Mr. Garofalo, I made certain representations on the record. Are those representations accurate? Okay. What do you want to put in that building?
That's just one of the retail sales of new and used merchandise, and that would probably be it. Be all kinds of merchandise in there for sale.
And you were here last month, and we talked a little bit about we didn't really talk about it because we didn't have enough members, but I talked to the engineer about putting 10 parking spaces in there. You willing to do that?
Yeah, it's going to be side, like on a slant, because backing out, I want them to back out so that they're not into the street, and then they can pull out on Second Avenue go out.
Okay.
They just did all the curving around there, there have to be plenty of room for driveways to do that, so I have no problem with that.
So you would stripe certain spots in front of the building and certain spots on the side of the building?
Right.
Okay. Any other changes to the building you're proposing?
No, the building is set, everything is done there, and it's ready to go.
Is there lighting there?
There's all lighting inside and out.
Okay.
Mike, your survey that you attached to the application shows a 1-story frame commercial building, and then adjacent to that, a 1-story frame residential dwelling. Does the applicant want a use variance for the entire building, or just the part that is designated on your survey as a commercial building?
Just a storefront.
So
That
just,
part is a 4-bedroom.
okay, so it would just be, so that could, the board, if they chose to grant this, if they felt that it is wanted, they could condition that it's just the, it would just be a use or a variance to permit a thrift store in the area that's designated frame commercial building on your survey. Is that correct? One question, who owns the building that encroaches on the back, the block 1801 and 8 lot 18?
The one to the right-hand side?
Yeah, this one up here.
Yeah. I don't know his name. I bought this building, the first building off, and there was an older fellow who owned all of that. And from what I understand, many years ago, that building in the back was built because he owned the whole property. He encroached both properties with that building. It has an address and everything. I'm about to make a deal with the owner through Family 5 to see if they can get that subdivided so that I can buy that little building off of him and put it with my building.
Well, right now, you know that there's part, almost 1/3 that this residential dwelling is on your property.
Yes, a pre-existing condition.
How do you have access to that?
They don't. They have to go through my my driveway to get to it.
What, your driveway right here?
No, there's a driveway on the side there.
Second out
On
here?
Second Ave.
Over the top.
All the way down the top, where the building is.
Right here?
Up top.
There's a driveway in here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's not going to impede on.
Yeah, so this house, this four-bedroom house here has its own driveway here. And next to it is another driveway for this house here.
There's two driveways in the rear.
So you grant him an easement, Mike? Is there
No.
something? No, nothing, it's just all.
His name is Mike, by the way, Mike, trying to think of his last name.
Parisi?
So it is.
So you're just granting him the right to go in and out of it, it's not.
Well, he hasn't been using it for anything.
Okay.
And a lot of damage in there, you can't get a tenant in there, but, I'm gonna see if I can work out a deal with him where I can attach that to my property. If he can get it subdivided, I told him I would probably let the building off him, and this way I could get an easement for the driveway to be right to that house. Makes all the sense in the world.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
Mike, in John's review letter dated September 18th, he had checklist requirements of certain things. If the board was inclined to grant this, would you accept a condition that a more fully set forth site plan be looked at by the
Well,
board?
the thing is, as I said at the beginning, it's an already existing, pretty full site. I don't know what more we can add to it. I know John was concerned about the parking, John was concerned about the lighting, which we addressed, but I don't see what else we can really add to it. I mean, I didn't bring the letter with me this time.
Yeah, it's up to the board, but
We've asked for possibly a waiver of a site plan, because we will put the parking in, there is lighting, but there really isn't much other things we can do.
There's lighting around the whole outside of the building, and inside the building, it's all windows, so you can see in and out.
Is there still access from the store to the back residential
No.
area?
No access at all.
And you plan on using the whole store for this
Yeah,
variety shop?
it's actually,
Because
I
it
think
was
it's- I
two
think it's like
stores for a
40
while.
by 60-foot store.
Yeah.
I think it's 40
But it
by
used to
60.
be for years, two stores. It was a
Well, yeah, there's a laundromat
Little
and
laundromat.
a little store in the back where you use for computers, where people would play with computers while they were closing and, you know,
And you have a tenant for this store?
well, I had 3 tenants for the store, but they couldn't wait any longer, they all left. My last tenant just opened up on the back of his pipe with a thrift shop. You know, she was my tenant, and she couldn't wait any longer, so she went there, but, I'm gonna open it up.
But the use variance would be for a thrift store, not a just general
Or are
commercial.
you
to have
changing
in there
the use? Like,
Chinese restaurant.
Or isn't he asking for commercial as opposed to general office?
That's correct.
Yeah.
But he said a thrift shop. Now, commercial, I thought he said he was gonna operate as a thrift store. Now, if you give him commercial, then he can put anything in.
Under that status?
That's what I was hoping.
Right. It's up to the
I
board.
mean, if I could get a commercial, then I could put, yeah, if a tenant comes and wants to put something in there, of course, they would have to come in front of the board, to get whatever they wanted to get.
Not all of
No,
them.
they call it general commercial.
Right.
If you're
Whatever
specific
falls
as a
under.
thrift shop, they can grant you a thrift shop.
Right.
And then if someone comes in and wants to do a Chinese restaurant, they'd have to come back to the
That would
board.
be up to them to come back
Yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
Right, I mean,
That's why I think we have to define our use.
Yeah, it's gonna be retail sales.
Yeah, right.
Dual use stuff.
How, would it be possible just to make it an approved non-conforming for the one use?
yes, you could give a use variance specifically that used as a thrift shop. But I think if you.
Then
Thrift
if
shop.
someone that had changed use, you'd have to
Then
come
they'd
before the
have to
board
come
again.
back in, and, the board might want to review that then. There might be more intentions as a restaurant, where you may want to look at maybe having a parking scheme defined with some type of site plan. But, I mean, if the board feels that there's a special reason and it's not detrimental to the intent of the zoning ordinance, and you can condition it, that it's conditioned that it'll be given a use variance for the specific use of a thrift store. think you can also condition it upon John's approval of some kind of submission, just approve the parking, how the parking's gonna flow. I mean, we have, and I take Mike's word for it, that he's gonna put in slanted parking, but if you don't condition that and you give the
We would definitely.
the approval, then, you know, that, so I think if you are going to entertain an approval or a motion for approval, that one of the conditions should be that a parking plan, a lighting plan has to be submitted for John to review and approve. Because if we approve it without that, whoever has the thrift store can go use the parking as it is, just pull right off. And I think Mr. Gaffaro was saying that that was a problem backing out into
Absolutely.
Clemens Road.
Without
and he's
doubt.
trying to eliminate that. So any conditions that the board feels would be appropriate, you could discuss with Mike and Mr. Garofalo, and then the motion would be, you know, based on.
Southwestern side where the 6 parking spots are?
That's Clemens Road.
Are they keeping up the parking spots for a vehicle? It's like 18.3.
Yeah, well, you see, I don't know.
It'll be subject to providing the plan, the parking plan, and the lighting plan that Mr. Pettit.
But I mean, if you're approaching on Clemens Creek Road, that would be a little bit of a hazard, don't you think?
I would agree with that. That's why we were trying to put the slanted in instead of straight in.
So 18.3 would be increased with the,
The ones on Clemens Creek Road, Michael, are straight in.
Yeah, well, that was done, I think Mr. Garofalo just showed that on the plan when I wasn't representing him. But then we talked to John Pettit, and we said we gotta figure out how to put the parking in there.
Actually, when that was done, there was a lot more pavement than there was street. When they came and put the curb, the new curb in, it kind of shortened that up a lot. So now I have to look at it differently because now they put the curbs in where they're supposed to be. And before they weren't, we could just back out and go because the curb was so, the sidewalk was so long, nobody knew where the curbs were. But now that the curbs are in, you can see it, and if the parking spots are side on the slant, then it's easier, much easier to get out.
Now it's in the cab.
there's concrete, all sidewalk, well, not sidewalk, curbs on the corner and on the.
Right. But the rest is cab.
How about for deliveries, any merchandise, anything, is it predominantly done on the Clemens Bridge side? On Second?
Side door.
Yeah,
Okay, that's your access.
We'll take that.
There's nothing next to this, Mike, this is just all ground here?
That's, I think, a little grass there.
Okay, there's not another building there?
No.
So you could
No,
have
there's a whole
deliveries.
street there, across the street.
All right.
Yeah, and your deliveries will be box trucks,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
UPS trucks,
It'll be-
even smaller than that.
Mainly small trucks, yeah, not even a truck, it would be a van, bringing stuff in, so
And there
small
was-
stuff being sold, no big stuff being sold.
There was a laundromat before, Mr.
Yeah.
Gaffron? All right, so there, it was used as a
Before
commercial
that, it was
use.
Sonny's
Oh, they had it when I grew up on Harding Avenue. That was Sonny's Lunch and
Sonny's
Egg.
Deli.
All right, so it has a history of commercial, so then you can base an approval, that would be a hardship now to say, no, you have to use it as general. So.
No, I agree.
We have to fill one of those things, either it's a special reason that it would be an undue hardship if you denied, so, you know, to stand the test of any appeal. All right, so it had a historical use as a commercial use.
Definitely.
All right, so I think that you're safe too, if you decided that the other criteria were made to, you know, approve a change of use to, or use variance to permit a thrift store with any conditions you feel, you know, are appropriate.
So that whole area is unoccupied right now? It's vacant?
The store is completely vacant.
And the residential,
That's a 4-bedroom house that's rented out.
that is rented
Yeah.
out? And that's the one that says the one-story frame residential building?
Yeah.
And their access is in the back?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they have their own driveway next to the house.
We're here on the side.
Okay. And that portion of it is in the residential, the R1 zone? Or not?
General office zone.
So the residential is in the general office zone?
But that's pre-existing.
Pre-existing
Years.
non-conforming use,
Non-conforming
yeah,
years.
yeah, so that's fine, yeah.
And then that back building, is that one tax property, or is that split between the two?
Well, it's encroaching on my family's property, but that's been, while that's been there for how many years?
40 years, I know.
So it's actually part of the property toward 1801?
Actually,
Right.
it's straddles both lots, yeah.
Number one.
Half is on my lot, half is on yours.
But tax-wise, it belongs to 1800.
I kind of feel like I'm better than taxes on it, but
Somebody else?
Taxes.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Rowan?
You want to open up to the public?
Absolutely. Mr. Garofalo, you okay with that? With public? Okay, at this point in time, we're going to open up the meeting to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on this application, and this application only, please come forward and state your name and address. Wishing no one, I see no one from the public wishing to speak. I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Mr. Dickinson, seconded by Mr. Pinello. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rowan?
Well, the board had to discuss any conditions that you would want to put on the, any approval?
Well, you know, obviously, any approval would have to come through Mr. Pettit's office. We have a very sketchy idea here of what's being done. We don't really have a site plan. So it's very, very nondescript as far as what's going to go where. You know, we have residential, we have Bridge Road, we have a lot of stuff going on here, and not a lot going on with what we've been handed. So I would think anything would have to go through Mr. Pettit's office so far as the site plan is
The
concerned.
board could grant the use variance from a thrift store condition upon a site plan being submitted? Is that what you were?
I would like to see that, because we don't know signage or anything at this point, right?
And then, of course, you know, the applicant could request waivers at that time, but you could approve it. You could do a motion to grant the use variance to allow the use of a thrift store at the location. You would designate what part of the building would be used, subject to a condition that a site plan be submitted to our engineer for review. You could do that. You could say just for a parking plan to be submitted. It would be whatever the board feels would be necessary.
Well, I think to even entertain it would have to be all of the above.
Okay. Would the board be able to grant the variance this evening, condition upon the submission of a formal site plan?
That's a vote.
Or
That's a vote on the floor.
Or would you want the applicant just to submit it all at once?
Well, I think we went down that road. I think we honestly asked for a site plan. We asked for the applicant to come in with a little bit more information, and I think all we've really received is a piece of paper with some drawings on it that says they want to slant the parking spots on a major highway, and that's about it. And God bless you. For me, you know, that's just not sufficient for my, God bless you. That's not sufficient for what I would need to do tonight, but again, it's a vote for the floor, so.
I mean, my opinion is, like Fred had mentioned, I like the non-conforming use as a thrift shop, you know, conditioned upon the parking being just the way Mr. Albano had described here, and getting Pettit's approval on that. Other than that, I mean, that building's been sitting there for years. It had uses in the past, you know, I know, but we're stuck with what's there. We're not going to change it. It's, you know, it's not a diamond in the rough. It's a place that, you know, I'd rather see filled than empty myself. That's just my thoughts.
And can I address the board real quick?
Of course.
Mr. Garofalo indicated he's not going to have any freestanding sign, it'll be a window sign, so we're not going to be asking for any freestanding sign. Secondly, again, I'm willing to meet with Mr. Pettit, and if he says we need a site plan, it's a minor site plan, he's willing to do it, to put the parking spots in, and any additional lighting. I don't think there will be any additional lighting, but as Mr. Pinello says, it's there, whether we put a site plan, put all that in there, you're gonna see the same thing, what we have right now on the survey. It's an existing site, so, I don't have any problem working with Mr. Pettit and, let him say what he wants there. And you know he's concerned about the parking, because we talked last time about it, so that's our position.
Thank you.
I was absent from the last meeting, so I never got a chance to really review this or look at it, or visit the site or anything. But I tend to agree with what the good chairwoman says. And I'd like to see something that has meat on it and not, if it's commensurate with good planning for the area and whatnot.
Well, can we get the use variance approved subject to doing a minor site plan? Showing what it, because some of the things that I already talked to Mr. Pettit about, I don't think are applicable to the site. It would be like floodplains and grading and stuff like that. It's an existing site.
Yeah, I'm sure the board would give waivers on
Yeah,
that one.
so I'd rather get the use variance approved subject to a minor site plan and have John review it and make comment on it.
The board could entertain the approval of the site plan, of the use variance for the specific use, subject to the formal submission of a minor site plan for further review by the board. You could do that, or if the board feels comfortable with that.
Right.
If not, then,
Put up for a vote.
the applicant would have to submit a minor, make a minor site plan submission. No ask for, specific waivers, which I'm sure we would grant, as we've granted in such matters in the past. But any approval has to be conditioned upon, I think, a minor site plan.
Okay.
Or at least, so John is satisfied with the part.
We're used to seeing dimension drawings with heights, et cetera.
Well, the buildings aren't changing,
Right.
yeah, that's not gonna change. But I think the big concern with the board is the parking scheme, how this is gonna flow.
I have a lot of concerns with the whole thing too.
And we have trash removal, you might wanna see where a trash
Too many.
container is gonna be, because obviously that's gonna have to be on near the residential, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
Do you have any idea hours of operation? What are you looking at?
Well, I'm not sure.
Doesn't have a tent yet. Doesn't have a tent yet.
Well, you were thinking of
I
operating
was
something
going,
yourself.
well, I had a few tenants and lost them because it left the time it took me to get in.
Right.
To get when I had to get in. So I was going to open it up myself, as have a running store, and then see if I could rent it out as a running store.
And it appears, like Mr. Gafford, the board, when they have the other information, they don't feel that there's going to be any objection to getting the use variance that you're requesting for the thrift store, especially since it has a history of having commercial use there. So
I don't want to speak for anybody, I don't think we should speak for the board. We can't assume that, there's some issues with thrift stores.
yeah,
I mean, there are issues, and there's going to be, if we go that route, there's going to be conditions with that. We have one in town that Mr. Knight will tell you has been an issue, with a lot of violations, a lot of, so I'm just not sure it's the right fit,
that's what the board has to decide.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But you can look at the history if it was commercial uses there before.
Mhm.
If it was a deli or a laundromat, which are definitely commercial uses.
And if I may, you can't condition a head store somewhere
No, I
else to
understand
stand
that.
on something to this. You have to
Mike,
let
you
it
know
stand,
that.
you
I'm
have
not-
to let it stand
I'm
on its, I understand Mr. Knight is chasing people down, and
Sure,
cleaning things up.
definitely not going to let me get away with anything.
But every application stands on its own.
And we know that.
Yeah.
We're aware of that. You want to do a resolution?
Well, what's the board prefer? I mean, you want to condition now, there's been comment that the board might not be so sure with a thrift store. So if that is a problem.
I just don't,
If the
I mean,
board, if it looks like the board, Madam Chairman, is going towards, look, we would like to see a site plan, at least a minor site plan, before we make the final decision, and are not willing to give any, nod on this project right now.
I'm personally not.
Yeah,
That's just,
Dick?
the rest of the board is the rest of the board. I don't speak for anyone, but, I don't know that that's just a great fit, when we're abutting all these different residentials, and I realize it was in the past a laundromat. And, when I look at these site plans or lack thereof, I try to think about, the people around it and how it's going to, impact them. And, I think, let's say a laundromat certainly would have a whole lot less of an impact on the neighbors right next door and all around them than if, we have a thrift store. And, we're not gonna want stuff out front, we're not gonna want, the stuff that is sometimes associated with thrift stores, and I'm sure we condition it upon that, but, I'm just not satisfied at all with this piece of paper that, I can do my job as to what I was asked to do by the residents of this town to make an educated decision upon what's going to be here. We have nothing. He doesn't even have a tenant yet. He's had, we're not, I'm not ready to move on this at all.
Other members of the board feel the same way, or?
I think this is very vague. I'm concerned, I don't know whether or not this is a county road, correct? But whether or not, the parking, if you have it in an angle, they're gonna have to, depending on which way they're gonna go onto the road. I mean, I'm concerned about that.
There's sidewalks there, we have the curb cuts.
No
There's
sidewalk.
no sidewalk, the curb cuts a county road, that's gotta be approved by the county. This is not even close for me.
Yeah, there's not enough for us to go on, I think, at this point. A site plan minimal, and some other idea of what type of business it's going to be, other than, we do have those businesses already in town. Not that that's a problem for me, but because of the use variance, I think we want to make sure that this is going to be something that will fit in with the rest of the area. So if you have office buildings, and all of a sudden, you've got this one unit that doesn't have, to my knowledge, sufficient parking if you're gonna run a retail establishment. A laundromat is one thing, but
Right.
you're not gonna get a lot of traffic.
No, there's no employee parking in a laundromat. You're gonna need employee parking, you're gonna need a designated area for pickup and drop off. There's a lot of things that are not delineated in this plan whatsoever.
I mean, it's
Not
an
lack of a
odd
plan.
size, it's an odd property to begin with. But without any kind of clue as to how that's gonna play out, I don't really have enough to go on personally.
There could even be line of sight problems with somebody backing out of one of these parking spots, right? And then, I'm sure that town takes a very parochial view on that.
And that's all stuff Mr. Pettit would, at least give us information on. We rely on him to set us clear on what's doable and what's not doable in that area.
Well, it sounds like the board has some questions, so I guess we'd have to carry the motion or carry the application.
If you carried it, Mike, you'd have to re-advertise and republish, okay? Because you'd be putting in a site plan. And
Minor site plan?
Yeah.
The publication for minor site
well, it's, the minor site plan's going to approve all that, it's going to hinge on, I think, of how the board's feeling of whether the use variance is granted. So I think that's something the public should be able to take a look at. And I agree with you, generally minor site plans are not, when they stand by themselves, you don't have to notify the public, but I think when they're coupled with an application for a use variance, I think, like, I would advise that we republish and renotice.
So we publish in the newspaper, we notice to all the properties.
Yeah, I think that would be good one, but it looks like the board really wants to see a minor site plan. And I think that's what John Pettit is September 8th letter was alluding to, that there was checklist requirements.
A lot of them.
So I ask the board for a motion to carry it. Next meeting, for notice.
Next meeting's our reorg meeting, and usually when our reorganization meeting, we'd like to,
Yeah, we don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It'll be February.
That's fine.
February, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
As long as the board's okay with that. And, I think.
Just, Michael, make sure if you can, that we have everything at least 14 days prior to the next meeting, especially for any new members. We want to be able to bring everyone up to speed after reorg,
No problem.
okay?
Yeah, that's it in time, February.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we need
Well, you're waiving any right to any automatic approvals.
Correct.
Okay. No, we don't need a motion to carry it. It'll just be carried until pending the submission, conditional on the submission of a minor site plan. You know, and if it's not, and proof of republication and renoticing everybody within 200 feet.
All right, thank you. Good night. Have a nice holiday. Well, we have,
They can't hear this one either.
no, they can't. No, it's the D variance.
Another one.
D variance. Just making my notes.
But Joe can come back. Oh,
No, you can't. Michael's representing.
All right, yeah.
Nice try. Okay, the next order of new business is application 17-06. Mr. Albano, please.
Good evening again, Michael Albano on behalf of the applicant, Michael and Diane Zimonek. Zimonek? How do you say it? Jomek. Jomek. I called the wrong name. This is another application for a use variance on 39 Lindsay Avenue, Block 112, Lot 2. If you're familiar with the Hair Hut on Clemens Ridge Road, their parking lot goes back to they have their hair salon in the parking lot, and they have a building owned by the gentleman that my client's going to buy it from, and then Ultra Loom Electrical business is my client's business. That's lot 3. That lot's about 65 by 115. We gave you a tax map showing the lots. It's on Clemens Ridge Road and Lindsay, correct,
Right here.
Lot 2.
Lot 2.
Yes. My client's under agreement to sale to purchase the building from Mr. Begins with Z too. Simon. So yeah, you have the 2 Z's here.
Go figure.
Yeah. We're on a tight schedule. We got to sell by the end of this month. Mr. Zimonek, they live in Florida, but they travel up here quite frequently with their business. They're asking to buy the store next to their building. It's a 1,200 square foot building, 1 story. They're going to use it for storage, maybe a small office, and the one thing they ask for is a spot for living space in the rear of the building, so when they come up here from Florida, they can stay at the building they're buying. It would be 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a living room, kitchen.
Is that something that has to be changed, or does it currently have anything in that?
It would have to be changed if you approved it. Um, It has a bathroom there.
Okay. Sorry.
The building would be deed restricted to only the owners staying there while they come up. They wouldn't rent it out, they wouldn't, have tenants there. It would just be as a convenience to go into a hotel, pay money, they can use it at the site. The rest of the site will remain as is. He needs it for, again, storage on the site, there's trucks on the site, there's storage needed in the building. With that, I'd like to have both the clients sworn in and take some testimony.
Yes, folks, would you please, anybody that's going to give testimony tonight, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this evening before this board is truthful and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
John, Zion, is that how you say it?
That's
That's
the
the
current
fire.
owner.
The current owner. Did you, Mike, in reviewing this, did you get a authorization from him, from the owner regarding this application?
No, but it's under contract to sale. I can send you the copy of the contract.
Oh, okay, so the contract, you do have that?
Yeah, I'll send you a
Yeah, you
copy
can send me
as a
that.
condition.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your name, please?
Diane.
Thank you.
And Mike and Diane, I made certain representations on the record. Were they accurate to the best of your knowledge, I believe? Okay. You presently own that business on Lot 3, correct?
Correct.
And how long have you owned that business?
Only about 3 years.
Okay. And what do you do there?
We're electrical contractors. We're mostly on the road all day. We come in the morning, 7 o'clock. Everybody gets there. We leave probably by 7:30. We return between probably 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And no one's usually there all day except my wife. When she comes up, she's in the office. And that's about all.
What are your hours of operation?
About 7 to 5, I would say.
Is that Monday through Friday, or is there
Yes.
any weekend work?
No weekend work.
Okay. Because your wife doesn't want it?
Yeah.
Go back to Florida. And what are you going to do with the building you're under agreement to sale?
We're just going to make a little apartment out of it. We want to put a little more office space in there and keep it for additional storage that we need. And parking, actually, we need some more parking.
Okay, have you approached Hair Hut for any parking yet, or are you just waiting to get this deal done? No, okay. Anything else you want to do there?
Not just clean it up and make it look presentable. I have pictures of the place that we previously bought. Okay, you want to look at it? How we cleaned it up, how we made it,
Yeah, run down and
You want to mark them, Mr. Rowan? You want to mark them, please?
Yeah, let me see what we got, Mike.
Before, this is the before pictures, where they bought Ultra.
All right, why don't we just collectively,
That's the after.
collectively mark them applicant number 1, which is a series, and this is not the location, is it?
No, that's
Next door.
Oh, okay.
the place that we
That
don't
we
have
own
it cleaned
now.
up and made it presentable for neighbors.
So that's where the business is now.
Right.
Yeah, we want to buy the place right next door to it, do the same.
Thanks, Keith. Michael, are you through? Before I ask you any questions?
Yes.
Can I ask you, are you going to be doing anything with the impervious coverage when you add your parking? Is that going to change? We don't have a review letter from our engineer on this, so, I mean, in other words, what I'm asking you is, are you going to be adding any impervious, which might be like an asphalt or something, to add to the parking that would change the runoff and
I
whatnot?
think it's pretty
There's
much
there's asphalt there now, it's a little beat up, we probably re-asphalt it.
Or are you going to add to the square footage
No.
of the impervious?
No,
That's going to remain the same, thank you.
How much of the interior is going to be converted to a residential use?
I would say probably about half, 600 square feet.
And I think, was there testimony, Mike, or your representation that they would be the only people
It
using
would
it?
be restricted to just that. They wouldn't rent it out.
How about employees?
We wouldn't live
Employees
there.
won't live there either.
How many employees do you have?
4.
I'm laughing because when my boys were very young, they worked in this building when it looked like this. There was a sign maker that had
Oh,
it
right.
many years ago, and it did look like this. You've done a very nice job.
And after the sign shop, that actually, the gentleman that was in there left you a little bit of a mess.
You're going to do a motorcycle park or something?
No, it was a cabinet maker. It was-
Yeah, he's a cabinet maker, that's right.
He really did a nice job after the fact.
I want to say for the record, Dave and I spoke about this. I had this property listed in the last 3 years that they're thinking about buying it,
Okay.
their agreement. And he thought, in my opinion, or his opinion in mind, that it wasn't a conflict for me to sit.
Yeah,
You have to sell it, you have to sell it.
And there's no monetary benefit to Dennis whether there's this.
I agree.
I had
It's
this,
or not.
John Science was,
Yeah, he didn't represent my client, he represented
no,
himself.
your client bought
Yeah.
my listing
Right.
that they're in now.
Right. But you weren't representing my client, you
No.
were representing yourself. Yeah.
Another
That's a
city?
conflict either.
Are you kidding me? Another city? Zion, Zymek, and Zion.
Mike, did your applicant give testimony of what's the nature of these other lots and blocks on Lindsay Avenue? What's their uses?
Where?
On Lindsay, say from lot 28? Yeah, through 22.
Well,
Are
if
they
you
all
look at Lindsay,
Are they residential?
it's set for
With the exception of the corner of,
yeah, it's the hair hut and then the hair hut parking lot. There's a commercial building that he's buying, lot 3, he owns lot 3, and lot 4 is the house.
So there's residential use in that area
Yes.
already?
Right, they back up the residential use too.
Across the street though,
this is going to be a mixed-use building. It's not going to be a residential building. It's going to be a mixed-use because you have storage.
Right.
Well, they're asking for a use variance to permit residential in a commercial
It's not going to be
zone.
fully residential. It's going to be mixed use.
Right.
Right, Keith? All right.
Correct. It's going to be a mixed use. It's going to be part business and part residential.
Yeah, but it's going to be deed restricted just for them, so.
And Dave, do we need to restrict it to the percentage of the square footage
Whatever, whatever. They
for residential?
Gave a representation that it would be no more than 600 square feet.
Is that what you're looking for, 600 square foot residential?
Yeah. And the building, total building is about 1,200 square feet, so that's it.
Just to remind the board, what we need to do, and what you have to consider in applications like this, is that there's a special reason. They've given testimony, these folks, wait, they live in Florida?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any residents in this area?
We have an apartment right now.
Or are you going to give that apartment up? or-
Yes.
That the denial of such a use variance would impose an undue hardship. The grant of the variance, of the use variance advances the aim of the zoning ordinance and promotes a public welfare. It can just be one of these, but I'll tell you what your obligation is to review and consider, and will not result in a substantial detriment to the public good. When you give these type of use variances, you can take a look what are the surrounding uses. And, if there are residential uses there already, well, that kind of lessens any detrimental effect to the residential uses that are already there. Once again, on any use variance, you can attach conditions. Conditions can be who occupies it, what percentage of the building is going to be used for the use purpose, or any other conditions that you feel are appropriate and, are intended to protect the surrounding community.
The only conditions I would like to attach to it would again be the square footage that we spoke about, the 600, a non-increase on the impervious, and we want to make sure there's no lighting with the new building, with the new use that's going to have candle power going into the residential area. And then the hours of operation are going to stay the same, basically, correct? Okay, and of course, that is deed restricted, so that only the owners can reside there.
Well, it wouldn't be deed restricted, it would be in the resolution, the restriction would be in the resolution. That only these, is that
That's fine.
okay, Mike? Only these people, and I'll get to Mrs. name again, the husband and wife are the only ones that can use it.
Yes.
Okay, so they can't rent it out, no employees.
Right.
But now it doesn't look like you're limiting the use, so they could reside there 100%.
I think it's in concert with the rest of the neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of residential all the way up and down Lindsay, and I applaud what they've done with the property since they've taken ownership of it, so I don't have a problem with it.
The residential and the building you're in now, where
Yeah, beliefs.
So nothing's gonna change as far as the structure
No.
or the footprint? It would just be use, and you would break up that building into part residential in the back of the existing?
It'll be in the front.
Or in front?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, sorry.
It's
already looking on.
That's fine.
What's your name?
Diane.
Okay, all right.
It's already pretty much divided, we're just gonna, you know, fix
That's
the
fine.
models basically.
Office and storage, the residential.
Do we have sufficient parking there on that front?
Yeah, there's plenty of parking.
Keith, have you visited the site? Are you satisfied with everything we've talked about?
No, whatever, so I'm familiar with it though. But it would be an extension of his existing
Yeah.
business.
Anything else from the members? Any other questions?
No, negative.
Okay, Mr. Rowland,
Let's just go to the conditions again. A condition upon a 600 square feet, which would.
Not to exceed.
Condition that the use, residential use granted is specifically to Michael Jomick and Diane Jomick, his wife. All right, so if Michael divorces Diane, his new wife can't.
Leverage. There's leverage.
Let's just say wife. I'm not gonna handle that.
And for no other person or employee, no rentals, and et cetera, no tenants, et cetera. Were there any other conditions?
We talked about the lighting, not to encroach upon the residents.
Well, that's, we can't do that. We're not permitted.
Yeah, that the residential use will not impede.
And the impervious coverage will not increase. I don't want to have any runoff into the neighbors' yards.
And that's wood. For existing lighting. Anything, now we got, so we have 4 conditions. I'll go over them again. No more than 600 square feet will be converted. Condition that the use is just for Michael and Diane, no other parties, et cetera, et cetera. The residential use will not impact or impede or increase any impervious coverage issues, and it will not impede or reflect on the existing lighting which is at the premises. And there is off-street parking, Mike? All right, if there are no other conditions?
No other conditions.
Okay, then make a motion.
Entertain a motion to approve
I make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Pinello and Mrs. Gushen. Can we have roll call, please, Joyce?
Chairwoman Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Ms. Fusion.
Yes.
Mr. Chasky.
Yes.
Mr. Vinella.
Yes.
Mr. Auberly. I'm sorry,
He's
Mr. Zelchuk.
excuse himself.
Mr. Laverty. Mr. Stone.
Yes.
And Mr. White, is he part of this?
No, he didn't sit in for anybody.
No.
No. Okay. Mr.
Mr.
White.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Mike, send me over a copy of that contract, so just to have a right,
You get your pictures back, Mike?
right here.
Just take them back if you want.
Good luck. Have a nice holiday. You're welcome. I received this request for water supply information, former golf facility 126391. I guess, Joyce, I see you were carbon on this, and Mr. Mecca was carbon on this. Mr. Rowan, you want to look at it, see if we need, if the board needs to take any action on this, please?
CCMUA dealing with the leaks?
I thought it was a check. I was looking for a check. It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
This is a check we approved.
That's a resolution.
Break up the court.
Yeah, it's a typo, I think.
Want to get the boys like it better?
Yes.
Sure, thank you.
Let them know.
Break up the garden.
I think this should be referred to John. They're asking for information regarding the potential groundwater uses within the municipality based on a 25-year planning horizon. Yeah, John should.
Okay,
Yeah, they're just talking about, right,
Right now, CCMUA doing a lot of work with dredging and lakes and everything else. I guess I want to make sure that.
That's the
Yeah.
The
The
old races, yeah,
In fact, that really wouldn't go to John, that would go
Bach.
to Bob.
Steve Bach.
Yeah, he's the,
How we different?
Michael Bayshore.
well, just for John and Nick, Mr. Garofalo only came in with a very vague drawing. We have many concerns that were not addressed on his drawing.
Was it postponed or denied?
No, we just, we carried it to February. He's going to, I mean, we have so many issues. There's no way.
this is a minor site.
Yeah.
What about the other gentleman?
He's fine.
Was approved?
Approved with 4 conditions, not to exceed 600 square footage of residential, not to increase the impervious, only allowable tenants or the husband and wife, and not to have any candle overflow of lighting over into the abutting residence.
How do we enforce something like that?
Well, it's going to be part of the resolution, so if somebody else lived in there,
Does it end when he moves out?
it's just to them.
It's only for him.
It's not going with the ground.
It doesn't go with
They
him.
would require getting a certificate of continued occupancy, which wouldn't be denied.
That would be denied, unless they came back in front of the board again. and-
Yeah, unless without
and asked to continue.
So with that, we're good. I guess who's gonna, Joyce, are you going to give this to Mr. Bob? Mayor, did you want to look at this? I don't think you were CC'd on it. Mr. Mecca and Joyce were, and Mr. Rowan examined it, and he suggests that we give it to Mr. Bob. And there's no action required by this board at this point in time. Okay, all right. At this point in time, we're going to open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any matter whatsoever, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address and be heard, please.
Charles Buckhead, 223 Sunnybrook Road. I just have a question for the board. My wife and I have been contemplating this for a couple of years. We live on Sunnybrook Road, and I was curious, who would I speak to find out what the requirements are if I wanted to put up a garage on a property? Does it have to be so many feet off the street? Does it have to be attached to our house? We have a bi-level, and it stands separate from our house, things like that.
Yeah.
Would it be-
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's online, you could read the ordinances. It's a little, the ordinances aren't easy to read, but it is on the ordinance.
Right.
It limits the square footage, the height, things like that. And we do allow detached garages, but they're limited to a certain size. If you remember when Anthony and Nona on our street built the big garage in the back, they had to come
Ours
back.
wouldn't be that side. It would be similar to our next door neighbor.
Yeah, they came in front of the board and they were granted a variance.
Yeah, the things we were concerned with was, I spoke to somebody in town, and they said that they thought it had to be at least 70 feet back. We have a very large maple. I hate to take trees down. I lose a tree, I plant a tree. And that tree we planted when we moved in the house almost 40 years ago. And so I wanted to just get the information as to what those requirements are.
Keith is your man.
Okay? I'll be seeing you in the spring. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
you.
You need more room in the house? What's going on? Am I missing something?
You just want a garage like you guys do.
Because
Our cars clean.
All right, wishing there's no one else from the public to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
We have resolutions, Madam Chair.
Not the public portion, no.
No, I
I
think.
want to close public.
Close the meeting.
No, I want to close public, then I'll do resolutions. Let's close public first. Mr. Dickinson and Mr. Ranieri. All right, we have 2 resolutions.
Close enough for government.
That's right. We
Yeah,
have
let's see, we have
Resolution 17-16.
Mr. Cornum here prepared. That was, the Caliber collision.
That's
That
correct.
was an application to administratively amend the site plan approval. to permit the installation of new pylon sign and facade sign without variance.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor to accept the resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
Mr. Pachowski, is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Kuchen, roll call?
1 second, so keep this all straight. Chairwoman Cleanup.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
No, he has to abstain, he wasn't here. You weren't here this meeting, were you?
Pass.
He's abstaining.
Ms. Fusion.
Yes.
Mr. Chowski.
Yes.
Mr. Vanella.
Abstain.
Mr. Alford.
Yes.
Mr. Laverty. Mr. Renier.
Yes.
And Mr. McCoy.
Yes.
6 ayes and 3 abstentions.
Okay, next we have resolution 17-17, Mr. Rowan.
Yes, that was for 126 Pine Avenue. It appears it was an application approval of variance to permit the construction of a new single-family dwelling on an existing undersized lot, 50 by 125. Mr. Cormier was present and he prepared the resolution. Dick pointed out, though, and I agree, that our R1 zoning district requires a minimum, I think, of 60 feet and 6,000 square feet, where Mr. Cormier put 80 feet.
Typo, yes.
And so, Joyce, if you would just correct that on the resolution, unless you want Dave to send it later.
The typo, it says 80, he says 60.
Okay, I don't know if he sent it to me in Word or it was just a,
Okay, what we can do, I got it, so what we
PDF.
can do, I can,
is it
If
okay
the
just to
board-
make the correction? I mean, I
sure, yeah, just
change
make
it,
the
okay.
correction, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion on, yeah. Motion on the floor to adopt the resolution is read.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Pachowski, second. Ms. Kuchen, roll call, please.
Mrs. Cleanup.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson, were you?
Pass.
Ms. Fusion.
Yes.
Mr. Chowski.
Yes.
Mr. Vanella.
Abstain.
Mr. Alford.
Abstain.
Mr. Laverty. Mr. Renier.
Yes.
And Mr. Kapaz.
Yes.
Okay. Any of the other members have any business to go over before we close?
Yes, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. The clerk just recently received an application to transfer the liquor license for Antonetti's. So that property, we're under the impression is either under contract or has sold.
It all hinges on the approval of the transfer, whether or not it will sell.
Yeah, and so they basically have to do a background check, the police department, and things like that, so that would be good news. We heard about that for a while. I think the real estate agent had come in several times, making sure of that. And then on just another couple of quick notes, in case anyone knows, I know you've been, Mr. Knight's been dealing with All Risk, the new property across the street from the Vault. A lot of their stuff, are they going to be coming in front of it for site plan approval at all, or is pretty much everything okay?
From what they submitted, everything's been approved. They may be coming in for site plan approval if, for example, putting that curb cut and other.
Yeah, they asked about an access easement to 9th Avenue. I think we've talked about that before, or the property owners have talked about that, but they realized they have to first get the easement from Richard's group, which I can't imagine they would say no, and it would be a benefit to everybody, and then they'd have to come in front of us as a site plan approval. And they gotta pay the taxes. I don't think it might be a little premature to say, well, you talked about Dunkin' Donuts before, everyone knows that Dunkin' Donuts hopefully will be coming in soon with us with our change of schedule. I was even thinking about reaching out to them to see if they want to try to get it on January. Do you think that would be too tight?
No, I think January's fine.
Okay, so if they want to maybe come in. And then the last thing, just let everybody know, obviously the work being done on Elm Avenue and Broadway, the road work behind the Wawa, behind the Harry Williams building, where the apartments is pretty much finishing up all that. But just wanted to let you know, one of the things that we were trying to accomplish, I don't know if we got it done, was we wanted to put a sewer line to connect down to the roadway. Because we're hopefully going to get some funding to put a ADA compliant bathroom at attached to the outside of the Harry Williams building. So if you picture where the two double doors are that face the open area towards Wawa, one of those doors would become a ADA bathroom, little lobby area. So they were trying to get that done. That's a positive thing. It's more likely should happen this year.
Would that be grant money?
A little different. It's a partnership with the county to do this, plus with community block grant money. Whenever you're breaking down, well, barriers, ADA barriers, and the seniors using it, things like that. Yeah. So I just want to let everybody know a little bit. I don't get to see you guys at the council meetings. And that's it.
Very good. Is there anyone else with anything?
Chairwoman Cleaver,
Yes, ma'am?
I looked into the schedule for next year.
Yes.
For the meetings, and it looks as though everything except for 2 dates falls on the usual night.
We have the August night
We have
night
in
out.
August, because of the way the National Night Out falls, you would have to move to a Thursday night, the 9th of
Yep.
August. And then you wanted to talk about November.
Yeah.
November, it falls on the 14th, which is the convention.
Yeah, we're just, municipal convention is on the 14th. I don't know if you guys will be out of town. Sometimes myself and Joe will go down to it.
We can move it back a week.
Yeah, because it's not going to interfere with, if we move it back a week, it's not going to interfere with the borough council meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna find out when, because usually I go down to Florida, that teachers' convention week.
It's the week before. The convention's the week before.
I mean, I can rearrange.
And Mr.
I
Carlin,
can't rearrange it too, because my wife pays for that vacation, so I'm kind of at her, demand. But if not, it's already Mr. Carlin.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna find
What
out.
date are you talking about?
let's move it back a week because it's not going to interfere with borough council meeting.
1 week back?
Are you talking about the 7th or the 21st?
7th.
No,
The 7th is council meeting.
Council
Go
meeting.
back when I mean,
Oh, yeah,
21st.
election,
Because of the
election day.
yes.
Shoot,
How about the 15th, the day after the,
the Thursday after,
Thursday
the
after?
day after. That sounds fine.
The
I'll
15th?
do the 15th.
Okay, so that's what I will advertise then,
Yep,
This is November we're talking about?
November 15th.
of next year.
Of next year.
2018.
Because we're going to advertise at the January meeting, right?
Well, January meeting, actually, we advertised the reorg for the following year.
Was that
At
how we
this
advertised?
time, that's how we've done it in the past, so that you're covered
Okay, you advertised the full year.
until then. So the actual advertisement that I would put in starts in
February.
February this year and goes till January 2019.
Any other questions or concerns? Wish everybody a happy, healthy, and safe holidays. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dickinson, second by Ms. Fusion, all in favor?